So where I used to work, I used to work for a company called Azuzi. And so Azuzi is a company that's run by a gentleman by the name of Arjun Winey and Rainer Becker. So they own restaurants such as Oblix at the Shard, Rocker Mayfair, Zuma, Incognito, all these high-end restaurants all around the world. They've partnered with Dreams Company as well, which is the Dreams Group, which own like Sexy Fish, like some of the high-end restaurants that you see today. It's owned by them. Now, how it started was there was a German guy by the name of Rainer Becker. He was in the barbershop, getting his hair done, hasn't been in the country for long, was kind of in the UK, just kind of looking for a new job, a new chef job, basically. So the barber ended up asking him, about his life, why he's here, what he's doing. And Rainer was like, I'm looking to open a restaurant one day. I've got 15 years experience of being a chef, but I really want to own a place. And the barber goes, well, I had a gentleman in my barber shop who's also looking to open more restaurants. And this happened to be Arjun Winey, who owns the Arts Club and some of these top restaurants. So the barber just ended up calling Arjun Winey and said, hey, look, I found a guy, opportunity here. I don't know if you're interested. And so Rainer ended up meeting Arjun Winey literally the next day. And almost about 20 years later, you've got this amazing group, which is Azumi company, and Arjun Winey and Rainer literally kicked off from there. Rainer had no money whatsoever. Arjun had all the money, but trusted him so much. And not only that, the barber as well, who cut the hair, is actually the owner and the founder of Koya Restaurants because of that connection that he made them. So, it took, a conversation, it took preparation, and I believe that a preparation met the opportunity, and they put the two together. Arjun had the money, and because of the relationship that they managed to build, he trusted Rainer. Until today, they're still making ridiculous amount of money. All the restaurants now are franchised. They're growing. Now Rainer doesn't work anymore. He's now the face of the company, and he's a multi-billionaire, because he was prepared and the opportunity was just presented to him, and he had the relationship. Sometimes, when we go to the barbershop or we go somewhere, sometimes we can be stingy, about our ideas, but you never know who's who. Sometimes you just have to trust your instincts, and that's what happened. And so all the restaurants that me and Dr. Kelly have been to, enjoying, it's been because somebody was prepared and this opportunity was prepared in front of him. Yes and no. Um, there are some people who actually don't know how to tap into things like that. So they can grow to have a lot of influential people around them, but they don't become influential themselves. So I could be around so many rich people and their net worths could be, a million plus. But if I'm not able to tap into what they have and create my own, I would never be able to get to the level that they're at, because I'm not able to tap into it. So I'll say yes and no. There are some people who are just very, very wise about the company that they keep, and they learn either from the mistakes or they learn from the things that they've been managed or they've managed to get to in order to grow to that ladder. So I'll give myself as an example. There's a lot of people that I'm around, and there's a few people that I would call family and friends. And the people that I know that, if they call me and say, hey, let's go out for dinner, all these things, I'm making sure that, not only am I helping them, but also I'm picking their brains in order to find out, how did you get to where you've got to? How can I climb the ladder that you're on, without actually trying to push you down or pull you down, so it takes, and a lot of people don't have the patience for it either. That's why a lot of people have the kind of the miss and the hit and all these things. So what I'll say is it's yes and no, but I'll always say to people that if you're going to have a network of people who have the net worth, make sure that you're learning from them to get to their level. First and foremost, I think we need to know the difference between networking and relationships. That's the most important thing. A lot of people put the two together, and think that it's two completely different things. Networks is just for you to be able to see the opportunity, grab it, and leave. But relationships is saying to the individuals or individual that, hey, I'm willing to build with you and work alongside you. So we need to know the difference between the two before anything else. Um, for me, I'm more of a relationship person. I really don't like networking. I don't believe in that, because at the end of the day, there's something that you have that I don't. There's something that I have that you don't. And when we're able to come together and work together on something, it will always be beneficial for the both of you in the long run. And so a lot of people, and especially within the young generation, we only believe in networking. So you realize that there's a lot of networking events. Oh, let's go to this networking place. Let's go to that networking place. And you realize that you've made no impact. It's because you're just looking for that one opportunity that can make you blow. But if we start looking for relationships and we start looking to build each other, that is more beneficial than networking. Networking, as I said, is that one-time opportunity. Relationships is for the long run, and you benefit more from relationships than you do from networking, because sometimes when a network doesn't work out, you're pretty much done. you know and so what I look for in people is to see, are they looking for a long-term relationship, or they're looking for a one-time thing. And so when I see that that person just wants something from me, I kind of withdraw a little bit. I might do what they need for that one time, and then that's it for me. But if I see that you're willing to go through a relationship with me and you're genuine about it, we can work something out, and you realize that it works out in the long run. And again, I can only use myself as an example. A lot of people don't know where I've come from in order for me to be where I am now. And how I met Dr. Kelly was that I was a cloakroom attendant. you know and if it wasn't for our relationship that we formed from me hanging your jacket with yourself, Matt Bird, Bishop Wayne, and all these people, I never would have had the relationship that I have with you guys now. And what happened was that if I had just seen it as, oh, it's Dr. Kelly, let me see myself to network, I don't think we would have the relationship that we have now. But because we built that relationship and I saw that, you know what, you're much more than just a person for opportunity, you're a person that I can work with in long term, I saw that as a fit. And all the advice that you gave me, Matt Bird gave me, allowed me to progress from being a cloakroom attendant to being the first ever Black guest relations manager in Mayfair, all because of relationship, not because of networking. And so that's why I said that networking, it's okay, but it's not impactful. Relationships are more impactful than networking. Funny enough, again, because of relationship. I grew up with my mum. She was a single mum. And at one point, when we were growing up, we were homeless, and not a lot of people know that. And so there was a pastor that took us in, which was Pastor Kingsley Appiah J from Trinity Baptist. He took my mum in, took me in, and we stayed with him for some time. Then he got us a place to stay with a lady that went to his church who was called Auntie Kathy. We lived with her for a couple of years in West Norwood. And so, cut the long story short, when I, became of age, I went into full-time ministry. I wanted to find purpose. One thing about me is that I always want to give back. And I realized that Pastor Kingsley was running an orphanage in Cape Coast in Ghana. So somebody invested in my trip to Ghana for the first time, which was last year. And rather than me taking the money to plant Ahava, I decided that I wanted to give back to Pastor Kingsley, which was to help the kids, because I realized that he was always talking about, the orphanages and all these things. So I went there and my heart was absolutely touched by these kids. And I said that, you know what, if I'm going to be building this ministry, if I'm going to be building people in the UK, I also want to be able to be of influence somewhere else as well. Because we do the prison work and everything else, but there's not much you can do when it comes to orphanages in the UK. We have so many charities that are already doing that, but in Africa, it's difficult. So it was laid on my heart to take them as my own, to rebuild the orphanage, like refurbish them. So we're still in the process of doing that. And I remember when Pastor Kingsley called me, it was my last day in Ghana, last year, October. He called me and he was in tears and was like, a lot of young people don't feel to give back to their communities and don't feel to give back to these orphanages. And the fact that you've decided to set yourself apart, it really means a lot. And I will never forget that conversation, because I replied back to him and said, you know what? If it wasn't for you taking me in and us not being homeless, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in. And as much as, you know, I preach in all these churches, I do all these things and stuff like that, I really believe that there's much more to life. And you might have everything in terms of the house and, you know, the car, and you travel in between, but these kids, they need something. And so I just took it in and I said to the Ahava family, I said, hey guys, we need to make sure that we're part of this and we give back to them. And so that's where we are now. So I'm giving back to Pastor Kingsley and those kids, because when I was homeless, he took me in, you know, and now that I have a roof over my head and I'm in the position that I'm in now, I have to give back. It's important. Number one, build yourself. You know, build yourself. Make sure you have a vision and you have somewhere where you want to go, and be open. Of course, like what we said before, it's not everybody that you can share your vision with, but be open to share your vision. Because there is always somebody down the line that will be able to invest in what you do. But at the same time, one of my most important things is learn how to serve. And this is not even about church. This is not even about the marketplace. Learn how to serve. Be that person that people can depend on. Be that person that people can say that you're reliable, because it's through that that people can see the need to invest into your vision. The reason why, you know, Arjun Wani took Rainer Becker in is because Rainer had served for over 15 years as a chef, and all his credentials could speak for him. So he already knew. So Arjun's got all the contacts in the world and can make a phone call. And the thing is, everybody's connected one way or another, always. And so it always takes that one person to make that phone call and say, hey, I want to inquire about that person. So I will always say to people that if you want to build the right network, you want to build the right relationship with people, number one, have that heart to serve people. Have that heart to not always take from people as well. Let people know that you're the person that's willing to give. Otherwise, what will happen is that people just see you as transactional, and they'll be like, oh, you know, when you're dealing with this person, only deal with them this type of way. But you want to be that person that is versatile. You want to be that person that someone says, hey, do you know what? Whenever I speak about Dr. Kelly, it's like, man, I need to have him around because of X, Y, and Z. Like, oh man, whenever you're with Dr. Kelly, this is what it is. Or whenever you're with Ben, like, you just feel free to do what you want to do, and people can see the progress with that. So what I would say is, number one, learn how to serve. Number two, also make sure you're trustworthy.
Mm.
That is so important, because trust is the biggest thing that can make or break anybody. If you misplace that trust, or at least if you're not honest, and it goes to as simple as this. And you know, it's funny because Matt Bird taught me this. Even if you're running a minute late, let somebody know that, hey, I'm so it's rather you be 10 minutes, you know, early and say, hey, I'm running late, than arrive 10 minutes late and there's no message. You get where I'm coming from? So it's about being reliable, being trustworthy, learning how to serve. Those are the small little things that can really create you and businesses, relationships, and so much more. And again, you can even use that in the church as well. You can use that in the marketplace. You can use this anywhere. It's difficult. But one thing that I've realized in life is that when you're open and you're honest about who you are, you know, no one can fault that. I've been teaching something to some of the guys recently, and this is what I've been teaching them, that your life at home should be the same way that you are on the outside. There should be no difference. So if I'm open and honest to my wife, I should be open and honest to everybody outside. So nobody should be able to question. And this is the problem that we have, a lot of people. So many people can question something. But when you have that thing where no one can question your integrity, because that, I think that's a strong word, when no one can question your integrity because you are the way at home and you are the way outside, it's easy for you to maneuver through. So one thing that I do is that I check myself all the time. You know, if we're going to talk biblical, Paul says, I die to my flesh daily. And if I want to use that, and I use that at work as well. At work, I'm like, hey, do you know what? If I know that this guest is going to come and get on my nerves, because we look at our screens, we know who's coming in, we know all those who have the profiles and everything. We know who's going to be rude. So all the time, I'm always double checking myself and saying, do you know what? Who can I show love to the most? So when they come in expecting to be, you know, I'll give an example. So we have a lot of queens and princesses and princes, you know, from who have like maids and servants, like, and they've got about maybe 20 of them. So when they come to, like, for example, when they come to one of our restaurants, they're expecting a whole, you know, red carpet, petals and all sorts. So a lot of our staff don't know how to deal with these people because they can be very, very rude. But I decided to approach this the different way. I'll see it as, if it was my wife coming in, how would I treat her if she's my guest? And because I've done that, that's the reason why I'm not like trying to brag or seem like I'm big headed, but that's the reason why I became the go-to person in Rocker and at the Shard, because everybody knew that Ben is the only person that can handle this. Why? Because I put myself aside and put everybody else ahead of me. So every time when the rude customer will call, they'll be like, I want to speak to Ben. And even when I left the company, I was still getting, even till today, I got a text message from, I've been out of the company for a whole year. I'm still getting text message from people saying, Ben, can you still book me in? Because there's nobody else that can handle us. So it's about integrity. It's about learning how you are at home and outside the home as well.
Wow.
That I've done is that I've made sure that I've been consistent with people during the lockdown. You know, I know that we've been doing this whole thing about social distancing. Everyone's scared. Everyone's wearing face masks and stuff. But even if it's once every 6 months, check in on somebody, because it'll be easier for you to maintain and build relationships when things open up. Because I think people will start, because now everyone is kind of like on edge. Nobody knows who has COVID, whether you have the vaccine or not. Nobody knows what's going on. If you cough, everybody's turning around, you know. And so it's good to be able to use, like, we have social media right now is so powerful. You know, you have so many ways and so many means of access to um, information, to checking in on people, all these things. Build and be creative. There are so many ways in which you can get hold of people. There are so many ways in which you can utilize the people around you before you even get out there. Because once things do open up, it'll be easier for you to maintain those relationships because people know that you care. Now, if you're looking to network, that's a whole different ball game. You now need to think of different ways in which you are attractive to people. Because I believe, anyways, this is my own theory, that right now nobody is looking for that, can let's sit down for an hour type of conversation and look at how best we can help you. They're looking for, what is it that is going to be beneficial for me? How is it going to grow my business, or how is it going to grow me? So everybody needs to start getting creative from now. You have a vision, make sure that your vision is written out plain and simple, so that when you have the opportunity to meet up with people, it's straight to the point. Your whys, your hows, your how can I do this? How can I achieve this? And then at the same time as well, how are you beneficial for somebody else during this season? Because it's going to take a while before we get to our normal day of life. So nobody's looking for anybody that's going to waste their time. You know, if Dr. Kelly calls me for dinner and he asks me certain questions, I have to make sure that I hit those questions, and I hit those questions well, because there's only a few hours that doctor has, because COVID is on the rise. Do you get what I mean? So we need to be as creative as possible prior and also right after. Social networking has always been there. It's only now it's been recognized um by particular particular generations, I would say.
Yes.
And I'll say that the young generation have just taken the social networking by storm.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes.
However, at the same time, only a few people have used that to make impact.
Yes.
A lot of people, I don't know if you guys know about this, but you know, we have things like Black Twitter, We have things like, Black Instagram, where Black people come together. They have all these things where they talk about certain things, and, you have different types of things. And there are some people that just utilize social media and help benefit themselves. And some people that just use social media for rubbish.
Yeah.
And so we need to be able to get to that point where is, what are you using your social media for? I wrote a statement the other day, and I said, communication, you can't communicate with yourself. You always have to communicate with someone, and there are so many means. But the question is, how do you communicate? That is, and for example, if you're building a brand, what does your brand stand for? You can't have this brand and you're tweeting one way and tweeting another way, because everybody's going to look on social media for your CV. You can have your CV like how we did before, but now, like for example, this is quite bad, but this is what we used to do when we was working in hospitality, is that when somebody signs up and says, hey, I want to come in for an interview, they send us our CV. The first thing we do is we go to social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, see how they look like, see how they talk. Because again, your character resembles on your social media, whether you like it or not. A lot of people say, oh, how I am on online is different to how I am at home. But that defines you because it's open up to the world.
Yep.
So the whole world sees you as you are, but at home you're something different. And that takes me back to that first point that I was talking about. Let everybody at home say that you're the same person outside. So social networking is been there for time, but it's just our generation, I would say from our generation and younger, have really taken it by storm. But it's up to you to use that now as a powerful tool to either make you money, or to make you good relationships, or to make a good networking surrounding for you.